The African Union defines the African diaspora as consisting of people of native African origin living outside of the continent, irrespective of their citizenship and nationality, and who are willing to contribute to the development of the continent and the building of the African Union. In recognition of the enormous contribution of the diaspora to the continent, the Association of African Universities rolled out a program, Diaspora Connect, to identify and produce impactful interviews and documentaries that showcase the contributions of the African academics in the diaspora to institutions of higher learning in Africa. This program is partly funded by the Carnegie Corporation of New York. Featured on Diaspora Connect are fellows and hosts under the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program, funded by the Carnegie Corporation of New York.
The Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program is, I would say, it's one of the many programs that allows diaspora scholars to come back to work in the continent. There are many of them, but I would say the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program is a little bit different because it is more organized in terms of it is institutionalized. It has established a very clear system and model of mobilizing and working with the diaspora, connecting them with the institutions in the continent, creating mutual connection with the continent, because otherwise we have many diaspora scholars coming back to their countries, either of birth or any other countries in Africa, to give back, but we are yet to see any that is well modeled like the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program that has been monitored. It has been well documented and can serve as a clear pointer, to others who would want to come and work in the continent.
So the whole idea was to create what we call the education commons, an engineering education commons, so that students in different parts of West Africa will be able to access information readily, similar to what the MIT has developed. I saw this, the Carnegie Diaspora African Fellowship Program, and so I called her. Maybe I said, look, I want to develop this in Ghana. Spending 2 months, 3 months with you in Ghana will give us the plan that we need to be able to really move this forward. Right. So I put the skeleton together. He and I work it together, and we sent this, and it was funded by Carnegie. Wow. Yeah, and that is why I'm here.
Recently, the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program gave us one fellow, Professor Onesimus Otieno, who is a professor in one of the universities in Huntsville, Alabama. He came here and to engage with us, and the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program sponsored him 100% to come here, and we benefited from him.
Most of our emphasis is on the lab work, right? The practical aspect of it, although we give them the theory behind, but most of our questions and emphasis is on the practical aspect.
Let me give you some of the areas that we're already considering. One is student exchange, where some of our students, as well as students from the Ghanaian universities, will get an opportunity to spend some time here in the US. The second example is collaborative research between faculty in the Ghanaian universities and Millersville University, and then compare some of the pedagogical approaches being used in the two countries.
I kept asking myself the question, what can we do to help Africa develop? And that was the question that led me into education. I live in Canada. I've spoken to the diaspora, and we are wondering if the government will permit us to start a private university in Ghana. We believe it will help accelerate development. Eventually, we got an interim authorization to start the All Nations University. And this was in 1996.
People coming to Africa should want to come and make a contribution versus just coming to see the animals or something, going to safari, whatever. I'm saying come to be prepared to make a difference. And I know that's my goal, and that's the goal of my wife, who's a physical therapist. Her name is Susan. And we came with the idea, we're here to serve. And so I set aside my cultural perceptions or misperceptions and say, let me come here and see what the needs are here and see how we can make a difference. I do believe here in Africa, as Nelson Mandela is fond of saying, that the most important thing is education. Yes. I do believe that's one of the greatest needs here in Africa, and that's why I'm here serving in the educational area. And I really do a lot of fundraising so that we're not simply using operational funds at the school. When we raise this money, we use it to build not simply the academic program, but communities and society.
Also featured on Diaspora Connect are coverages that showcase the recontextualization of African technology, arts and culture towards the unification and rapid development of the continent. The diasporas are ready and willing to engage in meaningful thought and imagination that can guide the continent's efforts for emancipation, innovation, and recreation. And Africa is ready for its 6th region, the diaspora.
When you're called to play a role that supports the restoration and celebration of Africa's, much of our huge, vast heritage is lost. So I was very happy to be a part of this project.
In 2019, His Excellency, President Akufo-Addo, made a very powerful overture to the African diaspora to consider returning home after 400 years of being away from their homeland. And he laid a red carpet for this, our kith and kin, our brothers and sisters, to return to their home country. And the excitement that this created has never been seen amongst Africans everywhere in the world for the past 400 years. These brothers and sisters returned home in their numbers, and some of them who couldn't return physically, they returned at the mental level, at the emotional level. As I traveled through the US around 2019, wherever you go, any black community you visit, it was all about the year of return.
The 4th pillar, anchoring the Beyond the Return initiative, which has succeeded the hugely successful year of return, is to give unfettered support to Pan-African heritage and innovation, with the objective of identifying innovative Pan-African projects. The Pan-African Heritage World Museum project is certainly an innovative Pan-African project, and government is accordingly supporting its development.
This museum will restore our truth, our genius, our dignity, and our greatness as a people.
The governments, they have to be serious about mobilization of the diaspora, not just the recent migrants, but the historic diaspora. Private sector, institutions like ours, universities, do we make deliberate efforts to try to attract African Americans, African Canadians, Afro-Brazilians, Afro-French, Afro-British, you name it. And of course, there are diasporas, as you mentioned, African diasporas in Asia. So it is across the board, from governments to the private sector to institutions. And this is where now we're in the process of setting up what we're calling the consortium of African diaspora scholars programs. And that consortium is going to build on the Carnegie program and build on the mandate of the African Higher Education Summit to mobilize the entire diaspora for the higher education sector, not just the African-born. So it will be to mobilize wherever they are, to anywhere on the continent, not just the 6 countries, and to not just the fellowships in terms of the academy, but also in terms of how can we facilitate the engagement with the private sector.
Right.
How can we use the scholarly diaspora to build capacities, not just in universities, but also other sectors of our economy.